This is part 2 of Romeo and Juliet Act 2. We are on page 90, right about line 124. Romeo and Juliet are on the balcony. He's been comparing her to the moon and the stars, which are lighting up the night and his life. And she is about to leave when he asks her for something important.
Oh, wilt thou leave me so unsatisfied?
What satisfaction canst thou have tonight?
The exchange of thy love's faithful vow for mine.
I gave thee mine before thou didst request it, and yet I would it were to give again.
Wouldst thou withdraw it? For what purpose, love?
But to be frank, and give it thee again. And yet I wish but for the thing I have. My bounty is as boundless as the sea. My love is deep. The more I give to thee, the more I have, for both are infinite.
The nurse calls from within the house.
Madame!
I hear some noise within. Dear love, adieu. Anon, good nurse. Sweet Montague, be true. Stay but a little. I will come again.
Juliet goes into the house.
Oh, blessed, blessed night! I am afeard being in night all this is but a dream, too flattering sweet to be substantial.
Juliet reappears on the balcony.
3 words, dear Romeo, and good night indeed. If that thy bent of love be honorable, thy purpose marriage, send me word tomorrow by one that I'll procure to come to thee, where and what time thou wilt perform the rite, and all my fortunes at thy foot I'll lay and follow thee, my lord, throughout the world.
She calls from within the house.
Madame!
To the nurse.
I come anon.
To Romeo.
But if thou mean'st not well, I do beseech thee.
From within again.
Madame!
To the nurse.
By and by I come.
To Romeo.
To cease thy strife and leave me to my grief. Tomorrow will I send.
So thrive my soul.
1,000 times good night.
Juliet goes into the house.
1,000 times the worse to want thy light.
So Juliet says to Romeo, if you're not true and if you are not a good gentleman, then leave me alone. Remember that she has a lot to lose if someone finds out that they have been talking to each other without supervision. So Romeo is saying, oh, but I love you. And she says, then don't tell me, prove it. I will send someone to you tomorrow. If you really love me, then we need to get married. So tell me when and where. And he says, okay.
Love goes toward love as schoolboys from their books, but love from love toward school with heavy looks.
Juliet returns to the balcony.
Hist, Romeo, hist. Oh, for a falconer's voice to lure this tasseled gentle back again. Bondage is hoarse and may not speak aloud. Else would I tear the cave where echo lies, make her airy tongue more hoarse than mine with repetition of my Romeo's name. Romeo.
It is my soul that calls upon my name. How silver sweet sound lovers' tongues by night, like softest music to attending ears.
Romeo.
My Aeneas?
What o'clock tomorrow shall I send to thee?
By the hour of 9.
I will not fail. 'Tis 20 year till then. I have forgot why I did call thee back.
Let me stand here till thou remember it.
I shall forget to have thee still stand there, remembering how I love thy company.
And I'll still stay, to have thee still forget, forgetting any other home but this.
'Tis almost morning. I would have thee gone, and yet no farther than a wanton's bird that lets it hop a little from his hand like a poor prisoner in his twisted gyves, and with a silken thread plucks it back again, so loving jealous of his liberty.
I would I were thy bird.
Sweet, so would I, yet I should kill thee with much cherishing. Good night. Good night. Parting is such sweet sorrow that I shall say good night till it be morrow.
Juliet goes into the house.
Sleep dwell upon thine eyes, peace in thy breast. Would I were sleep and peace so sweet to rest. Hence will I to my ghostly sire's close cell, his help to crave and my dear hap to tell.
Romeo exits to find the friar. Scene 3. Early the next morning. Friar Lawrence's cell. Friar Lawrence, Romeo's spiritual advisor, enters alone carrying a basketful of herbs.
The gray-eyed morn smiles on the frowning night, checkering the eastern clouds with streaks of light, and flecked darkness like a drunkard reels from forth day's path and tightens fiery wheels. Now, ere the sun advance his burning eye, the day to cheer and night's dank dew to dry, I must upfill this osier cage of ours with baleful weeds and precious juiced flowers. The earth that's nature's mother is her tomb. What is her burying grave, that is her womb. And from her womb children of divers kind, we sucking on her natural bosom find. Many for many virtues excellent, none but for some, and yet all different. Oh, mickle is the powerful grace that lies in plants, herbs, stones, and their true qualities. For naught so vile that on the earth doth live, but to the earth some special good doth give. Nor aught so good, but strained from that fair use, revolts from true birth, stumbling on abuse. Virtue itself turns vice, being misapplied, and vice sometime by action dignified.
Romeo enters. The friar does not see him and continues speaking until Romeo interrupts him.
Within the infant rind of this weak flower, poison hath residence and medicine power. For this, being smelt, with that part cheers each part, being tasted, stays all senses with the heart. Two such opposed kings encamp them still in man as well as herbs, grace and rude will. And where the worser is predominant, full soon the canker death eats up that plant.
Good morrow, Father.
So Friar Lawrence is sitting in his garden and he's gardening and he's talking about how the earth brings people together and it also provides for humanity. So he's talking about how plants do amazing things and can have medicinal purposes, but can also cause poison. This is going to become important later, so make sure you're paying attention.
Benedicity! What early tongue so sweet saluteth me? Young son, it argues a distempered head so soon to bid good morrow to thy bed. Care keeps his watch in every old man's eye, and where care lodges, sleep will never lie. But where unbruised youth with unstuffed brain doth couch his limbs, there golden sleep doth reign. Therefore thy earliness doth me assure thou art uproused with some distemperature. Or if not so, then here I hit it right, our Romeo hath not been in bed tonight.
That last is true. The sweeter rest was mine.
God pardon sin! Wast thou with Rosalind?
With Rosalind, my ghostly father.
So remember, last the friar knew Romeo was in love with Rosalind. Remember that this was just a couple of hours ago that Romeo saw Juliet for the first time, and yet he is completely obsessed with her now instead of Rosalind. So the first thing the friar thinks when he tells him, no, I haven't been sleeping, I've been doing something better, is he thinks he's been with Rosalind this whole time. But Romeo is almost offended by the suggestion that he was with Rosalind because he's so in love with Juliet.
No, I have forgot that name, and that name's woe.
That's my good son. But where hast thou been then?
I'll tell thee ere thou ask it me again. I have been feasting with mine enemy, where on a sudden one hath wounded me, that's by me wounded. Both our remedies within thy help and holy physic lies. I bear no hatred, blessed man, for, lo, my intercession likewise steads my foe.
Be plain, good son, and homely in thy drift. Riddling confession finds but riddling shrift.
Then plainly know my heart's dear love is set on the fair daughter of rich Capulet. As mine on hers, so hers is set on mine, and all combined, save what thou must combine by holy marriage. When and where and how we met, we wooed, and made exchange of vow. I'll tell thee as we pass, but this I pray, that thou consent to marry us today.
Holy Saint Francis, what a change is here! Is Rosalind, that thou didst love so dear, so soon forsaken? Young men's love then lies not truly in their hearts, but in their eyes. Jesu Maria, what a deal of brine hath washed thy sallow cheeks for Rosalind! How much salt water thrown away in waste to season love, that of it doth not taste.
So Friar Lawrence is saying you spent so much time pining for Rosalind and wanting her and being in love with her, and 2 seconds later you're not in love with her anymore and you love Juliet. How is that possible? You do not seem like a true love to me. This is too quick. Let's hear what Romeo says about that.
The sun not yet thy sighs from heaven clears. thy old groans yet ringing in mine ancient ears. Lo, here upon thy cheek the stain doth sit of an old tear that is not washed off yet. If e'er thou wast thyself, and these woes thine, thou and these woes were all for Rosalind. And art thou changed? Pronounce this sentence then. Women may fall when there's no strength in men.
Thou chidest me oft for loving Rosalind,
For doting, not for loving, pupil mine.
and badest me bury love.
Not in a grave to lay one in, another out to have.
So Romeo says, why are you upset? You told me to stop loving Rosalind. You didn't want me to be in love with her. Why are you mad now? And then Friar Lawrence says, yes, I wanted you to stop loving her, but I wanted you to do it slowly so that you could be in love with someone who actually loves you and to make sure it's a real love. He's worried that the love between Romeo and Juliet is not true.
I pray thee, chide me not. Her I love now, doth grace for grace and love for love allow. The other did not so.
Oh, she knew well thy love did read by rote that could not spell. But come, young waverer, come go with me. In one respect I'll thy assistant be, for this alliance may so happy prove to turn your household's rancor to pure love.
Oh, let us hence. I stand on sudden haste.
Wisely and slow, they stumble that run fast.
They exit.
So the friar says, Rosalind knew you weren't true. This young girl does not, but I'll marry you to make sure your
Scene
family
4.
stop fighting.
Approximately 9 o'clock in the morning, the time at which Juliet was to send a messenger to Romeo. A street in Verona. Benvolio and Mercutio enter. They are still concerned about Romeo's disappearance the night before.
Where the devil should this Romeo be? Came he not home tonight?
Not to his father's. I spoke with his man.
Why, that same pale, hard-hearted wench, that Rosalind, torments him so that he will sure run mad.
Tybalt, the kinsman to old Capulet, hath sent a letter to his father's house.
A challenge on my life.
So Benvolio and Mercutio think that Romeo has been out pining over Rosalind all night. Benvolio tells Mercutio that Tybalt has sent a duel challenge to Romeo. He was so offended by his sneaking into the party that he challenged Romeo to a fight to the death.
Romeo will answer it.
Any man that can write may answer a letter.
Nay, he will answer the letter's master, how he dares, being dared.
Alas, poor Romeo, he is already dead, stabbed with a white wench's black eye, run through the eye with a love song, the very pin of his heart cleft with the blind bow boy's butt shaft. And is he a man to encounter Tybalt?
Why? What is Tybalt?
More than Prince of Cats. Oh, he's the courageous captain of compliments. He fights as you sing prick song, keeps time, distance, and proportion. He rests his minim rests, 1, 2, and the third in your bosom. The very butcher of a silk button, a duelist, a gentleman of the very first house, of the first and second cause. Ah, the immortal passado, the punto reverso, the hay.
So Mercutio is going on and on about how wonderful of a sword fighter Tybalt is. He's worried for Romeo because Romeo is going to challenge him or to respond to his challenge. And so remember that Mercutio is our symbol for mental health. He is going on and on and on in a very fervid way about this challenge. Keep that in mind.
The what?
The pox of such antic, lisping, affecting phantasms, these new tuners of accent. By Jesu, a very good blade, a very tall man, a very good whore. Why is not this a lamentable thing, grandsire, that we should be thus afflicted with these strange flies, these fashion mongers, these pardon me's, who stand so much on the new form that they cannot sit at ease on the old bench? Oh, their bones, their bones!
Romeo enters. He seems much happier than he was at the beginning of the play.
Here comes Romeo. Here comes Romeo.
Without his roe, like a dried herring. Oh, flesh, flesh, how art thou fishified?